So Raisi takes to power. What do we know about him and probably, I suppose, how he's going to greet the world and his domestic audience? Simone, good day.
Yeah, good morning, Manus. Well, it's important to know that Raisi is a potential favorite to succeed the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Whenever he does pass away, he is quite elderly at this point. And that is really informing potentially the fact that we saw very few moderates and reformists allowed to run in this election. There were 7 candidates and really just 2 that you could classify as being more moderate. But Raisi himself, he went to a seminary school in Qom. After that, he became a prosecutor. Importantly, he was implicated, according to human rights groups, in the essentially fatal crackdown on thousands of political prisoners in the late 1980s. And then in 2009, as well as 2019, he was part of crackdowns on anti-government protesters that in 2019, that actually garnered sanctions from the United States that could potentially complicate what otherwise seemed like potentially improving relationship between Iran and the United States if we do see a return to that 2015 nuclear deal.
Well, I mean, up until this point, he's certainly not said that he's going to withdraw from it, but might make it more difficult to get it through. And just on his relationship with Rouhani, of course, he's sort of saying, look, we will tap the experience of the current government. I will sit down with the ministers and use their experience and their views. Does that set the stage for perhaps, Simone, if not perhaps a bit of jostling in doing this 2015 nuclear deal, a return to it, if not jostling, but we will get there?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the consensus here. The Supreme Leader has come out in favor of the deal. Raisi, even in the final days of this election run-up, did come and say he didn't intend to change course there. But I think when you look at the bigger picture, what the United States wants from a return to the 2015 nuclear deal is a start of a longer and stronger deal, more discussions about Iran's place in the region, about its support for local militias, its violations of human rights, according to the United States, and what Iran is going to be able to give under Raisi is going to be a different thing than a moderate would have offered, than Rouhani in particular would have offered. So, you know, this a key reason, a key impediment perhaps to returning to that 2015 nuclear deal still, even as we see negotiations ongoing in Vienna. And so clearly negotiators there going to be thinking about the result of these presidential elections as they meet even today.
And assuming we do get a return to the deal eventually, as I said, it could be a long and bumpy road, couldn't it? Longer than we think. What do we know about how an Iran led by Raisi might engage with the global economy? Because this is all about sanctions, Simone, isn't it? And sanctions mean free-flowing oil.
Yeah, those sanctions really complicating the potential relationship between the United States and Iran, the European Union and Iran, because essentially under sanctions, you don't do business with the leader of that country. So it makes it hard to have overall relationship. I think the thinking then becomes, okay, do you see Iran turn more to other partners with which it's been building a relationship, Russian, Iranian companies, as opposed to the West and the United States and the European Union. The European Union, for example, was Iran's largest trading partner before the United States left the deal and reimposed sanctions. So perhaps we don't see a return to that. Perhaps we see an economy oriented elsewhere. Also, Raisi emphasizing that he wants to focus inward, growing the domestic economy. Importantly, though, I think we're going to watch who he appoints as the head of the oil ministry and to run those functions, because that may influence whether or not we see foreign businesses come back into the country, particularly from the EU.